Right then, so this afternoon, as I said, is part of the webinars from Turn It On and Microsoft. We are looking at how to fuel the classroom, and we're going to focus on Flipgrid. It's one of those overlooked apps, but it's really powerful. So what we wanted to do this afternoon is make sure that we showed you just how to use it and the sort of impact it could have in your school. Before we go on to that, we are, as always, going to highlight that you can this afternoon become a qualified, certified MIE just by joining this session. And as usual, for those people that are on here today and familiar with these sessions, you will get a code to redeem at the end. And for anyone joining us new today, you can go to the Microsoft Education Center, which is called the MEC for short. If you just open up a web browser and search for that in a search engine, you will find the Microsoft Education Center. And as you can see from the fingers that are pointing in the top right-hand corner of the picture there, you can either sign in if you have an account already, or if you don't, you can click sign up and create an account. It's really quick and easy to do. That could be with your school email address, or it could be with a personal email address. But the Microsoft Education Center is an amazing resource of individual courses or learning pathways. And those pathways are structured around particular themes, or the courses may be just around a single topic that you want to get your head around, or you're interested in introducing to your school, or you might want to do it for your own professional development. And those will build into you getting badges and points, and you can use those to prove to your leadership team or your line manager that you've been undertaking your own professional development, and then use that to improve the standards in school. If you become a certified MIE, that often sets people off on a path where they want to get better and better and find out more. So something we will be offering in January is we'll be having our MIE Expert or our MIEE program running. And what that does is supports you in submitting your MIEE application to Microsoft later in the year, April, May time. We will be looking at various aspects of Office 365 and helping to build your portfolio so that you can submit your sway. If you become an MIEE, you might want to then convert your whole school, because you could become a Microsoft Showcase school. But along with that, you can develop yourself further still. So as well as being an MIE expert, you can become an MIE trainer or a master trainer. If you want to take it further, you become an MIE fellow. And every year, Microsoft normally runs an E2 competition where you can show just how much you've transformed learning in your school using Office 365. And that normally gets you a ticket to various locations around the world, have been Australia and everywhere. Now with COVID, I'm not quite sure how Microsoft are going to run that for next year, but certainly there will be something coming along for the E2. So make sure that you tune into that and have a go at submitting your application if it's something that interests you. So back to this afternoon's webinar, we are going to focus exclusively on Flipgrid. It's a bit more of a self-contained element, and you will find it in the Office 365 app launcher in the top left-hand corner, and I'll show you that in a bit. But also you can browse directly to it. So what we will do is we will look at how to create a group or a grid. We'll then have a look at how we add topics to those groups, and then how either your colleagues or pupils can add video responses, and then how that provokes student voice in the school, how you could possibly use it for assessment feedback. And as always, there'll be various points where we can do Q&A, and you can just ask questions about what I've shown you so far, or even just talk to us about how you're using it in your school if you already introduced Flipgrid and you've been experimenting with it. So what I'll quickly run through is how in theory to create these elements in Flipgrid, and then we'll go across and we'll look at a real Flipgrid. So step one is going to be creating your grid or your group. Now, your group could be around a specific class that you teach with. It could be around a subject or a set if you're joining us from a secondary school. It could be around a learning community. So I've also seen schools use Flipgrids for intervention purposes, or maybe you've got a STEM group running and you've got a group of pupils that you get together around a particular subject. Well, it's great for that as well. It's also pretty useful, particularly where we are facing a situation in the UK where it may be more difficult to get staff together again, and some staff may have to isolate for various reasons, you can use it to build staff community. So Flipgrids don't have to be about educational purposes. They can be really about pastoral reasons, or they can be about building staff community or pupil community. I've also recently seen a couple of schools using this really successfully for mental well-being and asking pupils to leave videos for each other in Flipgrid to build that community and that well-being and make sure that people feel they can be connected, but you have some degree of control as a teacher. You could also use it for building whole school communities. So let's say, for instance, you've got an eco council, and normally that eco council would be quite proactive in being around school and having various initiatives. You could move it online into Flipgrid so the eco council could get contributions or responses from pupils in the school, and then they could meet and review those. And they may be accessible to the Eco Council members, or they may be accessible to the member of staff that chairs the Eco Council group. But it gives the pupils a voice platform in order to communicate with the other councils in school. So there's lots of ways that you can use Flipgrid. And I would always say the first step is just to sit back and think, well, how do I either want to get pupil contributions? How do I want to promote pupil voice, either in a normal scenario or in this difficult situation? Or how do we want people just to be able to feed back through assessment reasons, whether it's formative assessment or summative assessment? And Flipgrid can be really good for all of those different purposes. Once you have got your topic in process, you can think about, well, what do I want to add to my topic group or grid? Do I want to promote some discussion or debate? Do I want people to explain a question that I pose? Or is there an idea that I want them to expand upon? Do I want to set a challenge and then get people commenting about how they've been successful at overcoming that challenge or approaching that challenge? Do I want to celebrate something? Is there something amazing in my school? Maybe it's just the fact that even in this difficult time, that community spirit is such a strong thing. You can get pupils to leave short videos around that. It could be to ignite a conversation about anything in your community. It might be that you've got several pupils across different year groups that can't now go and meet together because of bubbles, but they're all passionate about the same thing. And what you want to do is be able to harness that and get an area where they can make those contributions and give that feedback. Well, Flipgrid can be all of those things. So think of it a bit like having a toolbox, and all those tools in there can be used to build anything. And it's up to you as a school or an educator to think about, well, how do I want to fit it into my school? What's relevant for what we're trying to achieve? And you'll see this afternoon how that could be delivered. So as well as getting started, then step 3 of this means that you will need to go through some setup, and we'll do this in real time in a minute. Whether you want it to be private within your school or whether you want it to be more open to public contributions, and you can have control over that if you want people to be able to get in. The public can't just roam into there and see video contributions from pupils, and we wouldn't want that for safeguarding reasons. But you can have control over issuing a password if someone approaches you to leave feedback, and that being a process where you could even approve those videos for release before they become visible to everybody else. And you can then get people to share. So you can get people to join your Flipgrid, or you can use share codes, you can use QR codes. There's lots of different ways to get people involved. And then the final step is just getting either pupils and students making those contributions, whether it's your colleagues, as staff. I've even seen a couple of schools use this for governors and get governors' ideas and responses around certain changes that are being proposed in school. So it hasn't been possible to get everyone together in a governors meeting. Well, they've set up a Flipgrid, and the governors have gone on in their own time, left a really short video contribution, and then that's been discussed within a governor group or within a full governing body meeting. I've also heard of trusts doing this with schools and school leaders within trusts, just to know that school leaders are very busy people, may not have time to meet during a day, but they can find time at some point to leave a quick video response when it suits them, when they've got that second to breathe. And Flipgrid could be the platform for that. So I'm going to duck out of Flipgrid now, and I'm going to share across to a video I've got on another screen. So just move over for that. While I do that, has anybody got any questions where they want to pop them in chat, or anything that they've been doing in their school currently with Flipgrid? No? Just check if anyone's typing a question before I move on. No. Okay. All right. I'll move over to the actual Flipgrid. So you can find Flipgrid really easily if you just go onto a web browser. So I'm using Edge here. The new Edge browser from Microsoft is an extremely good tool now. It's much better than the previous version. If you just search in the search engine for Flipgrid, you will come to the website, and up in the top corner where I've got help, I'm already signed in here, but you can sign in. So you can, as I said, you could use your Office 365 address that's supplied from your school. That's absolutely fine to do that. I have some people that decide that they want to use a separate email address, and that is also okay, but it may lead to problems if you don't use your school email address when you come to set up a topic, and also the groups. So when you arrive, you probably won't have anything here because you won't have necessarily set up any groups, but I've got a few groups. So here's an MIE group that I'm going to use this afternoon, and here are some previous groups that I've used in other sessions. But what I'm going to do is show you how to create a group from scratch. We'll go through all the different settings, and then we'll look at how to put topics into those groups. And then what I might do, if time permits, is I'll get you to try leaving me a few video responses inside of the topics this afternoon. So when you come in, you've got various tabs along the top. It's discussion tab that you're going to want to go to, and that's where I am currently for my groups. If you want to discover what else is going on in the Flipgrid community, and the Flipgrid community are extremely active, there's a passionate group of people here that use it, but there's a lot of professional reasons. So you can get, if you're using Minecraft Education Edition, and we're going to cover that in one of our other sessions, you could go and join the Flipgrid community for that. There's a load of people in there submitting videos all the time. You can also check activity within your education. So I can see here some previous sessions I did with the MIEEs last year, who submitted, what activity's been going on, total number of responses. And for you as a teacher, it's really good to have a dashboard of activity so you can see for your class or for your school what's been happening. One of the recent innovations in Flipgrid, particularly since lockdown started, is a mixtape. So you can take your Flipgrid contributions and you can remix them effectively. You can add in videos from any topic, and that's something that's more of an advanced session. We may cover that with EE rather than this afternoon. You've also got shorts. So if you're recording for short videos that aren't necessarily associated with a full Flipgrid, this is where you would find them. You can also have Grid Pals, and Grid Pals, as you can see, gives you a location map, and this is looking in a moment to Colorado in America, but it shows you by pins on a grid who is active within your area. And what you can do is you can either search by grades, because this is primarily American based, it's split into grades rather than key stages in the UK. You can search by people that are using it in various subjects. And then you can find your grid pals within a locale, and you can find out who might also be worth connecting with or inviting into your Flipgrid. So it's a good way to build community. If you've got a small class already, and you know that it's okay, you've got consent from parents, they know you're going to be doing this, that you can invite people in, or you may just do it from a curiosity point of view, from you being an educator and wanting to connect with other people in classes around the world and see how they're undertaking a certain subject or a certain topic. And it's a great way just to network effectively. But we are primarily going to focus on the discussions tab this afternoon in Flipgrid, and we'll look at some of those when we come to the MIEE sessions in January. So if we want to create a group, we click on create group, and we need to first of all decide, is this going to be a private group? In other words, it's going to be a closed door, only people within my school will be able to use it, or do I want this to be public and just about anyone could discover it if they go searching for a Flipgrid group? If you're using it with pupils for safeguarding reasons, I urge you to choose private. Do not choose public. If you are doing this with consenting adults that are aware that the group is going to be public, then you by all means can choose the public, but I'm going to choose private this afternoon, and we're going to go through how to set up a private group for school use. So the first thing you need to do is decide on the name of your group. So I'm just going to call this test. And it can be anything you like, and you've got up to 45 characters. If it gets longer than 45 characters, it won't let you choose it, but even at 45 characters, it can be quite long and clunky. I would try and keep a group name that fits on the screen. You can either have a join code which is generated by your account, so it's used my surname long and picked up some random numbers. I don't wish to use that. I want to have something more unique and memorable. So I'm going to say test, and let's pick today's date. So we'll go test 0211, and it will tell you down here if it's available or not available. And you'll have to just try variations of your join code until you find something unique that's going to be available to you. So people can go to flipgrid.com and they can put in your join code and they'll be able to get into your Flipgrid. Then next choice you have is how you want to join pupils or students into your Flipgrid. So you can either pick up a pupil email address or you can have it by username. It's normally easier to use the email address of the pupils you've got in your school. And for any schools that have recently been through the DFE project, it's available from the DFE funding in the UK. You will have pupils that have email addresses, so they will get given those. And you as a teacher will have the list of email addresses for your class. If you don't, you can ask your IT administrator for them. So I'm going to select email addresses. If it is easier to use usernames, you can. Sometimes if you've got similar pupil usernames in class, it can get a bit confusing. So that's why I say use email addresses. I'm going to click on next, and then you've got a choice. This is the safeguarding control bit, and you can have it so only people with a school email address can join your private Flipgrid. So because this afternoon I've used my Turn It On address, I'm going to say only people with turniton.co.uk can join this Flipgrid. This is where you can allow people guest access. So if I wanted to have a guest access, I could, for instance, have test 2020. So I'll show that to you because this one will get deleted soon after the session. This will be the password to allow guests in. If I don't want guests in, I switch off guests, and that limits it only to people with that domain. If you want to have more than one domain, you can add them in here. So if you had a number of schools and you're working within a trust, what you want to do is allow any school from within the trust to be able to get in and use this Flipgrid. You just need to make sure that you add in all the domain names for the trust schools that you have in your trust. So it's up to you whether you want to limit it to one school and that domain, or whether you want to have it to more, and whether you want to have a guest password in. So I'm going to put that in there. Then I'm going to go next. You can here save some time. So if you're quite a prolific Flipgrid user, you can recycle or upcycle previous Flipgrids. And if it was around how you're using Office 365, it might be that I can add that topic in, or I can then skip that for now and I can add in a topic in a bit. So you can choose previous topics if you know that they fit with the subject you're delivering, or I can just skip it. And I think for this demo, I'm going to skip this one. You've then got your code that you can copy, and then you can pop that into Teams, or you can add it into Google Classroom, because Microsoft aren't being too precious about Flipgrid. They're allowing you to use this cross-platform, so it can be used in Google as well. Or you can embed code into a website. And also this is where you can get QR codes, so you can download that QR code and you can print it out. And if you're using tablet devices around your classroom, I often get pupils to be quite independent in the way that they're using the access of Flipgrid, and I'll get them to scan with a camera. So instead of having to type that address in, they just scan using the camera on the device, the QR code on the walls around the classroom. You can space quite a few around for social distancing reasons. You can drop them on the desk and print them out. They scan them and then they can go straight into the Flipgrid. It takes it directly to them. So there's various ways to get into your Flipgrid that you can use. If you're using a classroom and you've got a class team set up already, and we've explored this in some of the previous MIE sessions, you can drop that into a post and then they can type it in and they can go straight into it. So I'm just going to go straight to my group. And what it will do is it will take me in, and it pre-selects things such as background. So you may want to click the edit tool up here and go and adjust your group further still. So my group is called test. In here, I've got various actions. So I can add co-pilots, that's co-teachers. So I may be team teach. I'm maybe going to add a phase leader in, a subject leader, or a member of a leadership team. And they can also co-administrate this group, this Flipgrid group with me. I can duplicate the group. So if I don't want to have to create this from the ground up every time, and I'm going to use this as a template, I could create a template Flipgrid, and I go here to duplicate, and then I customize the duplicated version. I don't customize the original. Here you can get notifications. So if you want to know when activity is taking place in your Flipgrid and you don't want to have to be faffed with coming in and checking it all the time, you can set up your notifications there so you can get things like emails come to you and it will let you know when someone's made a contribution in a topic. Here, this is where you can get Teams integration. And here you can go and get your Teams link and you can connect your group in. You could also use that for recording videos and then displaying them over in your Teams. So Teams and Flipgrid go hand in hand quite well together. Down here, you can export data out of your Flipgrid. Now, I haven't got anything in because I've only made this, but it doesn't have to be that your data is trapped inside your Flipgrid. You can export it out. And here, if you wanted to end it and get rid of your group altogether, you can delete your Flipgrid and that gets rid of it. So if you wanted to add a co-pilot, that's the most common thing that people want to do, is add somebody else in so it doesn't fall just upon one individual to moderate this Flipgrid. This is where you do it. You put in the email address of your adult colleague and you invite them, and then they will get an email telling them that they can come along. Once you've got your group set up, you probably want to customize it a bit. So everything that you were selecting on the group creation isn't set in tablets of stone. So you can go in here, you can rename your group, you can change the join codes. If you decided you want to go from email addresses to usernames there, you can add in other domains. So all those options we had at the beginning. If you want people to be able to follow your group because it's of interest to them and maybe you set it up around a topic that they're looking at, you can allow people to follow and you toggle that on there, or you can switch that to off. You will notice over on the side here, as I scroll down, it highlights different shortcuts and you can jump to them on the side. You can have a status as hidden or active. I'm going to leave mine as active so it's visible to others here. If you want to make it more of a personalized background for your group, that's where you can drop in pictures that you've downloaded or created. There are specific sizes, so you might need to use an arts package to get them to fit. Or you can choose down here featured backgrounds or nature backgrounds or people backgrounds, and then you could customize over. So if I decided I was going to have an eco group, as I said earlier, and this wasn't going to end up being a test group, I'm going to rename this from test to eco group. And I've decided what the purpose of this Flipgrid is. I'm going to get rid of test there altogether. I'm going to have an eco background. There's the world, and I want to update my group. I just hit update at the bottom, and now I haven't got a test group any longer. I've got an eco group, and we're ready to go. So if I went back to the discussions tab, which is what we're focusing on today, there is that group now sat in the list of groups that I'm currently got active. If I wanted to change it from being active to hidden, I could get rid of it from the view of everybody else, and I could carry on building it in private. Or I could leave it active because I want to get it out there. If you want to reshare, that's where you get your share code if you want to get it out there and into the public, or you want to put it into your class team. Anything in there around the creation of groups before I go into topics? Feel free to unmute, or you can pop questions into the chat on the side and quite happily answer anything for those people that have joined since. Just give you a second to start typing if you're going to ask any questions there about groups and Flipgrid. No? Okay, I will carry on. If I go into my group there, I can go to here, and this is where I can add my topic. If I scroll down from eco group at the top, you'll see currently I have 0 topics within my group. So it may be that there's a particular subject that I'm interested in for this term, and I'm going to keep my eco group active for the whole academic year. So I could add topics in throughout the academic year. It doesn't have to be limited to one. Is there a maximum number of people in the group? From memory, there isn't. I don't think there is a cap, but that is something I can double check and I can find out for you. But I don't think there is a limit to the number of people you can have in your group. I've seen secondary schools have school-wide Flipgrids where they throw it open to every pupil in the school. So potentially 1,000 or 1,500 students in a secondary school. And I haven't seen anybody experience any difficulty with getting students involved or reaching any sort of cap at that sort of school level. So there shouldn't be a problem with numbers if you're coming from a college or a secondary background, or if you want to keep something running with a large number of people. Here is where you can choose to add your topic, or you can share your join code, and that is something that's open to you to use as and when you see fit. You've also got the export data option there. So I'm going to go to add a topic. And in here, this is where I would choose the topic. So this might be, let's say, waste plastic in the sea. And we are going to have a group focusing on that in school. So here, the title of the group is that. And actually, I might refine that further. Let's just leave the title as waste plastic. And down here, we're going to stimulate the question for our discussion. So please share your ideas about how to reduce waste plastic in the world's oceans. And it can be as simple as that. It can be more detailed. You've got up to 1,000 characters to do that. You can link out to other websites. So if you knew that you'd seen an article, so recently there's been that very good documentary from David Attenborough, who has highlighted if we don't change our behavior as human beings, just the impact it could possibly have on future generations. So you could link to that video, you could link to a website. Really, it's open for you about how you want to set that up. Then you choose what's the record time that you want for contributions. You can have it really short, so people leaving contributions have to say everything they want to say in 15 seconds, or you can have it longer. One thing to bear in mind, and I'm going to change mine to a 1-minute reply time, is that people may be accessing this from home. And if you are accessing from home, if you have big, long, hefty videos that are large in size, sometimes home broadband connections that aren't maybe as good as the one you've got in school can struggle with uploading. So I tend to keep it to a minute or a minute and a half tops. And you'll be amazed if you practice and you can re-record videos, just how efficient you can be at getting a lot of information into a 1-minute clip. Here, I'm going to change it so I'm localized to my location. So I want the captions, you can have captions on. So if you've got pupils with specific learning needs, they can have captions switched on, or you can have captions on the videos. But I would like those captions to display in United Kingdom English, because that's where I'm currently from. If you are worried about the video contributions that are going to be left and you don't want them to go live straight away, you can enable this button here and toggle it on, and that allows you then, as the owner of the Flipgrid group and the topic, to release those videos as you see fit. You can have various ways that you can add resources in, so they can be from you recording a video. You can upload a video you've already recorded, so if you're going to record it on the computer you're working on, the tablet device, the mobile phone, there's lots of different platforms that you can use for doing that, so you can upload directly from the device. Or you can upload from, if you've got something you've already created for YouTube or Vimeo, providing it's not blocked by the filtering in your school, you can do that. You can use static images, you can use Giphies, you can use emojis. There's lots of different ways to get content in. You can even bring in things like questions from Kahoot as well, if you use that in your school. So once you've got that on, I'm going to leave moderation on because I want to be able to release the videos and have some on that. You could also set up custom topics. So you can select ways that people access those topics. I'm going to leave that toggled off. Down the bottom here, people often overlook more options. And you can click that and it expands to give you even more options down here. So you can have things like controlling the topic attachments and how many links you're going to allow. So you might say, well, I'm only going to allow students to attach topics links from their personal OneDrive, and I'm not going to allow any other attachments from other sources. You can have topic status changing there, not only to being active, but you can give it an expiry date. So I might say, do you know what? I'm only going to allow this video to be active to the last day of November, and I'd like my video, to become active today, and I'm going to have it to expire on the 30th of November. So it's going to become open today. It's going to close on the 30th of November. Sometimes it catches people out. This is a Space American date format. I want to get notifications about what's going on a daily basis. Here is where you can give those options to topic followers as well. You can allow students to take videos offline, but for safeguarding reasons, I normally urge you to say that you aren't going to allow people to be able to download video contributions out. That gives you complete control and stops people taking videos that have been left as Flipgrid responses and then sharing them on other social media platforms. It gives you that degree of control, and it's one of the reasons why I insist on sharing the more options. Then down here, you get video features that you'd like to have some control over. So you can have filters, stickers, and things. And you can choose that you want it to be selfies and videos, selfies only, videos only, or none, if you want to be quite strict about what they can have in way of adding overlays to the videos they're making. Or if you know you've got the trust of the pupils that you're working with, then you can be more relaxed about that if you can trust them. The tools they have access to within Flipgrid are also a sanitized, restricted version. So there's nothing in there that should cause offense, but it might detract from what you're trying to achieve. It's a very serious topic. If it's something where you think it wouldn't add to it, then you can switch it off. You can have comments as well, so you can add comments to the videos that have been left, or you can disable that so that you can have no comments at all. You can have video comments left in response, or you can have text comments. You can have a view count that's visible, and you can also have sticky notes where pupils can add notes in their recording. There's a sticky note on screen. You can allow people to re-edit their videos so they can trim and delete, and that's quite useful, so I tend to leave that on. You could also have those attachment links so you can attach files. I tend to switch that off to stop any pupils and students attaching files when I'm using that with a student group. You can have basic feedback where people leave things like ideas, or you can have custom feedback. And for today, I'm just going to leave it as the basic setting. If you know that you're going to use this with every class that you're going to set up a Flipgrid topic with, you can save that as a default to prevent you having to go through and then customizing this every single time. Or you can leave it unticked if you know you want to actually review this for every class that you set it up for. And then you go create topic. And it will give you, just like at a group code, it will give you a topic code, and your topic code is there, and you can then share that with pupils or students or parents if you want them to get involved as well. But you're all set and you're ready to go. So click all set. So now if I go back to the top level again and I bring you back in, here is the group that I created. It's my eco group. I can see there now at the moment it's a private group. It's not public. There's one topic in there. So when I go into my eco group and I scroll down, I now have the topic waste plastic. And as yet, I've had 0 responses. But I could go into there and I can see exactly where my responses would start to appear. So if I take you across to, let's say, a group that I used previously, I'm going to say here I've got my Office 365 Expeditions, which is a group I used previously in the year. And we did something called Space Safari in that group. And what I did is I asked people to leave responses. So this is more of a developed version. I've given my topic a graphic. I've given quite a specific instruction here about what I would like my video responses around. So here I'm looking at contributions, and what each of these people did, and I won't play their videos because I haven't got their permission this afternoon, is they left a short video response around the questions at the top here. And we were mimicking a situation where we went on a space safari and people then explained what they found on their planets. And it was a really effective way in a 1 minute for them to give a mission debrief about when they visited their planet, and we're doing it around the topic work, just exactly what they found when they went to their either real planet or their fictional planet. So there's quite a quick way that people can then either see the responses of everyone that's been left, or you can see responses if you don't want people to see other people's responses, but you've got that control there. So if I went into the MIE group for this afternoon, you can see here at the moment, I've set up how are people using Office 365. And it's a very simple question. I want to know how you've been using the app. And I've got absolutely, at the moment, nothing in the way of responses. So I could, if I got access to this, I could go into record a response and it will enable my camera. So I'm going to say allow, and then allow will bring up my video. And you can see here this afternoon, me using a video screen. And down the bottom here, I press the record button, and I've got options in here that allows me to do things like upload my clip. I can mirror my video. I could record what's on the screen or not on the screen. I can add effects in as well. So if I wanted to add in things like filters, this is where they appear. If I don't want to add those in, I could put a frame around the screen. So if I wanted to have a frame around the outside. So that's when I said about maybe effects are going to detract. You could have text on screen, so I could then put in hello, and again you can decide whether that's something you think will enhance or not. So you can disable those effects when you come to it, and you leave your video, and once you've done your video you can then have a response. And you can see here that I've set ours to 1.5 minutes. So I'm just going to come out of that and close that one off. And then once you get to the end of that, you can submit your video and they will start appearing here. So one of the things I was going to ask you to do, just for a bit of fun this afternoon, I'm going to copy that link. I'm going to post it into the chat, and I'm going to break off and stop talking. I'm going to ask you, if you feel that you want to, doesn't have to be 1.5 minutes, but could you click that link and see if you can get in and leave a video response. I will also need to give you the guest access code because I've set it to just Office 365. Let me just go in and grab that. And it's over to you guys. Have a go at leaving a video. The guest access code should be MIE 2020. And I'll pop that in. So if you need the guest access code, that should be the code to get in. See if you can leave me a video, and the video is just around how, from the MIE sessions that we've done so far, you can get in and you can tell us just exactly what you've been doing with them. I'll give you 5 minutes to have a go at that, and then we'll come back together. Hi everyone, I have just updated the join code because I could see that it had elapsed, so I'm going to resend it. The new join code is that I've just reposted the Flipgrid link in the chat as well. Sorry, I think the one at the top hasn't worked as planned, so try the one at the bottom. That's absolutely fine, Deborah. I can understand not everybody joined the session necessarily dressed to leave a video. I completely understand that, but good to know that it's that people are getting in now. So another couple of minutes just to give people a chance. It's great to know, Deborah, and I've seen nothing but positive effects with pupils or students using Flipgrid. They tend to pick it up really quickly. They like the fact that it's a video response. They don't have to type anything or they write anything. They can talk. But actually, once they get used to it, you can get some really insightful, meaningful feedback, and it's good to hear the success that you're having with it. Okay, I'm going to reshare the screen. Before I play anything, I've got a contribution, so thank you, Jeanette. Jeanette, can I have your permission to play your response? Could you just either type in the chat or just unmute and tell me I'm allowed? If not, I will not play it. Thank you very much. Okay, so you will see up here, I have gone in as a person that needs to control of my Flipgrid. I've gone to my discussion. here is my MIE group. I can see I've got my one topic. It tells me I now have my one response. I'm going to go into here and scroll down, and here are my topics. Go into the topic, and then down the bottom here is Jeanette's feedback. So what you will see is them gradually building up here. And if you then click on them, you can either limit it so only you can see the response or everyone can see the response. And then... Hi, this is Jeanette from Dorset. Just to say, Office 365 is going well. We've only just launched it. I'm running it from the broom cupboard, as you can see, or the games cupboard. This is my tab. Okay, take care. That's perfect. And I think it just demonstrates really clearly how quick and easy it is to jump on, caption up the videos, so it's not something that's garish or detracts, but you can leave a really quickly video response. And it builds over time. The first ones, as with anything, you won't necessarily get the depth of response that you will achieve in the end. But once the pupils or the students are really familiar with it, you end up with a very powerful tool for them to have a voice, particularly in this current situation where we're either using blended learning or distance learning. And they're still able to contribute meaningfully, either whole school or as a class or within a subject within a year. But it's also really good if you want to poll staff, and if you wanted to know what staff ideas were about potential change, you could get the same sort of contribution. And it could be done so that they can't see it or they can see it, and they can get everyone else's opinions and ideas. One of the things I also wanted to highlight to you, and we did it in one of the other sessions, is that Immersive Reader is built in here too. And as I said, it's across many different products in Office 365. But if I've got a pupil that's a very low literacy level, and this actually is too dense as far as text is concerned, or there's too much information there, I can click the Immersive Reader either as a parent or a pupil, and then I can have it read to me just like before. Or I can change the text and the preferences that we've looked at previously, so I can have it read to me in a different language. So there's lots of reasons why Immersive Reader again would increase access to Flipgrid, and it isn't just linked into Teams, it's across all those Office 365 products, and it's right here in Flipgrid too. If you want to go back and change anything, you wanted to add a picture in here, you just click the button and you can upload from your computer, and it comes back to those upload methods that we got there previously. You can rename your topic. Or if you wanted to, and let's say that in our MIE group, it was today around how we're using Office 365, we can always add in another topic, and that could be around a completely different aspect. So you can either just keep a group and a topic for single use, but I'd urge you to think about how you could build long term and then have a raft of topics stacking up down here so that students or pupils could go back and look at previous discussions and previous responses, and then for you it's really good for you to be able to look back historically and see what's built up within a subject. Okay, I am going to dip out there and go back across the presentation. Thank you to everybody that's been taking part. Just going back into the presentation and go back into that mode. So really, it's as simple as these steps. Go to Flipgrid and sign up or sign in. You create your grid for your group, and it will be up to you to decide what your class, community or group is. And as we explored at the beginning, there's lots of potential different uses for that. And it's not just student voice, it's staff voice, it's about building community, it's about keeping people together, stopping them feeling isolated, still being able to communicate. Or you may have completed a piece of work and actually you want to get your assessment or your feedback from students this way. Well, Flipgrid does all of those things, and it can be used in all of those ways. Once you've got your group, you add in your topic, and those topics will build, but there's various different ways that you can then give feedback in those topics. You can invite people to make the response by pressing the plus, which is what Jeanette did there. Do consider your audience and tailor it, whether you're going to be aiming at pupils, students, or staff. And get your link shared wherever you're going to do that, whether it's in Teams, whether you're going to email out to staff. And then you're sharing links like here's one I use for MIEs, here's the one I use for the MIE today. but then they're quite quick and easy to access. Or use those QR codes if you've got pupils with you in class, and it quickly builds. You can see all the responses building up. You can get those pupils leaving stuff in ways they never would if they had to leave some written feedback, and it just gives you that whole interactive nature. And it doesn't have to be limited to just having Microsoft to get into this. You can access it from any platform. As long as you've got a web browser and you can get to flipgrid.com, you can then log in and you can leave those responses in your topics inside your groups. And it's a building community. What you will quickly find is with students that they go looking for other things that they're interested in, and that library of other public-facing communities are something to go and explore. And Flipgrid is moderated to some extent, so it's a safer environment. It's letting pupils and students loose. If anything is offensive, it is checked for things like expletive words or video content that's not appropriate. And there are bots that run in the background that try and take content down and moderate that to ensure that people don't get exposed to anything they shouldn't be seeing. If you want to go on to the MEC and you want to explore courses, there's two really good courses to go into. The first one is called Engage and Amplify with Flipgrid. And the second one, if you're going to go a little bit further, is called Beyond the Basics with Flipgrid. And I will say today we've looked at the basics in Flipgrid. Both of those you can go to on the MEC. They are the titles of the courses, and you can go in and get started on those and start your own study. If you want to get a guide as an educator to help you understand how you could do that in your classroom, you can go to blog.flipgrid.com/educators guide, and you can download that guide or you can view it online. There's also a subject integration guide produced by Flipgrid in the same place, blog.flipgrid.com/docs. There's lots of really useful resources to download, and Flipgrid are very proactive in creating those for teachers, making sure they're absolutely relevant for the classroom. So you can go and pick those up for free. Don't need to be signed in even to get those. There's lots of different ways of doing that. So there are quite a few resources for you to be able to tap into post this session for you to be able to use to support you in getting Flipgrid established in your school. So as far as the MIE sessions are continuing through this term, this is the final one post half term. We will be looking at running some more MIE sessions next year. We will pop the evaluation form into the chat. And what I'd really love today, if you could just go on that evaluation form and tell me some of the other areas of Office 365 or Microsoft apps you'd be interested in seeing included in future MIE sessions, because then we can build it to cater for what people are asking for, rather than me trying to look into a crystal ball. I do work with schools all the time, and I've got my finger on the pulse of what I'm getting asked for with those schools, but I'd like to know from you as a community what you would find as useful. So I'm just going to stop the recording at this point, and then I will share the code with you. The code itself can be then redeemed, and that code can then give you your accreditation to become a certified MIE, and it will also give you accreditation